let's take you back to the politics as they're unfolding in Gauteng. Much being said, of course, by the Democratic Alliance and the ANC around how we got here and perhaps what the way forward looks like. As we continue making sense of last night's announcement, let's bring in now DA leader Msimanga, who heads the Democratic Alliance, of course, in Gauteng and joins us now via our video link. Lovely to have you on the program, Soli. Thanks very much indeed for making time. Hopefully you and I don't have to say conscientiously at any stage of our discussion. But on a much more serious note, I mean, what's taken place in Gauteng has had the interest of people around the country with good reason. There's no overstating just the importance of this province. Let me just get your sense the morning after where you reckon things really went wrong here. Because what we heard yesterday from that briefing at Luthuli House is that the ANC was in fact willing to give the DA 3 positions, and it seems the insinuation was that the remaining 7 would have been split amongst the ANC itself and other parties that form part of the GNU. I see you shaking your head. So let me just get your sense of where things went wrong.
Well, good morning, Ayanda, and conscientiously, it is good to be talking to the viewers of, SABC. Indeed, we engage with the ANC, in good faith from day one. And this is why we had actually went as far as, participating in the nomination and the election of Panyaza Lesufi as the Premier, and then Morakani Musupie as the Speaker. Where it started breaking down was that understanding of a proper proportional power sharing started then, coming in, and being weakened down, where we were saying that we need to have proper, representation in the legislature in terms of not only the legislative arm of government, but also in the executive arm of government at a provincial level. We had said to them that we are willing to then go as low as 3 seats if it meant that other parties, not other parties are actually then accommodated in there. But the ANC became very, very clear. In fact, in a meeting that we had, the last meeting that we had with them, with Fikile Mbanula and Nomvula Mkonyana and others, it became very, very clear that they were not willing to go below 7. They wanted to keep 7 to themselves or 6 to themselves and only give the DA 3. Now, how do you expect a party that is coming with 34% of the votes of the mandate, dictating that they want to have 100% more than what the party that is bringing 27% of the votes into the legislature? That for us was very lopsided, and we couldn't agree to that.
Yeah, the reality, of course, is that the number of people who voted for you in Gauteng are now wondering whether or not that vote was of any value now that you're not part of this executive. What's a response to those people who might have, I suppose, be wondering whether or not they made the wrong decision by backing the DA, now that it seems you're going to have to take up the opposition benches?
Well, the people that voted for us can be very proud that they voted for us, because they didn't vote for the DA just to then, rashly go into becoming, rubber stamp or voting fodder for the ANC. And this is very much testament, in terms of what is now happened with the positions that they've now given to these other political parties. I mean, they've been hollowed out. Let's look at e-gov as an example. E-government has never been a standalone, portfolio. It has always been married either to infrastructure development or to COGTA. And when you're looking at agriculture, it's never been a standalone. It's always been married to, economic development in Gauteng. And right now, what are you going to do with those? I mean, when we now hear that there is a Minister of Environment or an MEC of Environment that his job is to make sure that he helps the municipality clean the cities, I mean, that for me is absurd. It really talks about where power is actually then really being centralized. And we must say to our, to the people that voted for us and to the people of Gauteng, the ANC has never really been interested in sharing power. It's all about consolidating power to themselves and making sure that they create side scraps so that they're able to then give, to people that will help them to prop them up. And the DA was not willing to do that. The DA will continuously play its meaningful role in keeping them to account now. There are budgets that are going to be coming up. There's reports that are going to be coming up. The programs that have to be approved. And if they don't talk to what the people of Gauteng say they want to then see, then best believe those will not pass. We will engage and we will communicate with other parties to then ensure that we're able to then hold this government to account. Then we can use those numbers to not pass budgets that are not addressing the aspirations of the people of Gauteng.
Are your potential collaborators, does that list include the EFF?
We will talk to anybody at this point, not to form government. We'll talk to anybody about ensuring that we're able to then keep government in check. We will talk to anybody that is able to then say to us, if this government is going to continue with lack of delivery, if it's going to continue with lack of transparency, you will know that in the previous term, there was a number of forensic reports that we were asking for that never saw the time of day. There are a number of reports that came through, that really, were washed down. And we want to make sure that those are not going to then continue happening. We want to make sure that the budgets that are going to be passed, that are talking to us being able to then advance the dreams and aspirations of the people of Gauteng. So we will talk to parties, any party that is willing to then talk to us in that instance, and for those principles, we'll engage with them.
Yeah. When John Steenhuisen first spoke about the government of national unity, and this is way before we even voted, I think, for the president, if memory serves, but it was among the very first briefings he had. He explained that the statement of intent, broadly speaking, has a number of parts at a national and a provincial level, but also went on to explain that part of what holds this agreement together is the ANC essentially working with the DA at a national level, and that's why we saw a very smooth election of the president, but also spoke about KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng being an integral part of this power-sharing agreement. Now, Helen Zille has already said in public that being excluded out of the government in Gauteng doesn't necessarily jeopardize the situation as it stands in KZN and at a national level, which seems to be in contradiction to what John Steenhuisen said, almost painting a picture of this agreement having three important parts to it. What changed?
Well, you think we need to then agree that, there was a good spirit that has been demonstrated by all parties at a national level and at a provincial level in KZN. There was an issue of proportionality that has been applied. I mean, KZN, if you're looking at the ANC's got, 14, if not 15 seats, and the DA has got 13, if not 14 seats, and the IFP then having 15. And when you start looking at those, that's the issue of proportionality that has been used there. And you can see even it reflected in terms of the positions that had been given. At a national level, something of similar nature had actually then been, been adopted, and you would see why the DA would have, and even other political parties having meaningful portfolios that they can sink their teeth into and then bring in about that change. In Gauteng, that is not the case. And I've just given you examples of the portfolios that have been allocated and hollowed out, and the consolidation of power between the Hamai, who's now cutting finance and other portfolios, and Panyaza now consolidating also in the Premier's office. And you can then see that Adiwele and all those groups now also coming out to play even in government here. So that is going to then take us, those steps forward. So we want to then deal with the Gauteng matter and not use it to jeopardize the goodwill and the good, beginning that has been displayed at the national level. So this is where we are, and we are still open to engaging with the ANC, and we'll engage with the ANC on a national level about what is transpiring here in Gauteng. But we are not going to then want to then, use the Gauteng mess at this point in time to bring the good work that has been done at a national level and also in KZN. But it doesn't mean that the door is completely closed right now. It means that we are now going to stand on our ground, and we are going to then get these guys to really come to the table. If we have to do that during the, the budget time, or when there's reports that needs to be passed, we will do that. But around the table, they will have to come, or else, you will have a government that is not going to be operating as it's supposed to be operating here in Gauteng.
What's your response to people who are saying that you've been outmaneuvered in Gauteng? Because, sorry, this wasn't the agreement.
Well, this wasn't the agreement, but at the same time, I think this also goes a long way to show that the DA has always been engaging in good faith. But there's been those that have been engaging in very bad faith. They say a leopard doesn't change its spots. I think this is something that we should have taken into consideration. But we engage in good faith, and we engage on behalf of the people of Gauteng, on behalf of the people of South Africa, to say we want a good deal that talks to a Gauteng that is able to then resuscitate the economy, a Gauteng that is able to then start strongly dealing with the issues of the safety and security of the people, the education, the infrastructure that is falling apart, being resuscitated, it being worked around. And this is something that we have now come to realize that those that we were engaging with didn't have the similar understanding as we are, but we are going to deal with this going forward.
Okay. I suppose if you're going to fully take up your position as the opposition, you can't really have a member of the DA as a deputy speaker of the legislature. What becomes the directive to Refilenteki about what the way forward is then?
We had actually asked that Menzeke, take up the position initially, because the understanding was that we are going to have the chair of chairs, and we're going to have 6 additional chairpersons of portfolios, which will have then complemented each other in terms of us playing a meaningful role on the legislative arm of government. That have now fallen apart, because now you can have her as being a lone ranger in that particular space there. So she is submitting her resignation. She is going to be taking up a role as a part of the shadow cabinet. We will be making an announcement of the shadow cabinet that will be then taking their responsibility on keeping the executive to account and making sure that they play a meaningful role in doing oversight and actually exposing and putting this government on the public platform to account for each and everything that they are going to be doing. And this is something that we know that in no time we're going to be having stories looking at the characters that we have there.
Lesufi has already spoken in public. He says he has a good personal relationship with you. I'm not going to ask you to confirm nor deny that, because it might be one-sided. But what I'm getting to is this concept of the door still being open for negotiation. You've said as much as well, that you're willing to sit back, get back to the table and have a discussion around the way forward. Now that this executive has been announced, though, what does that look like? In other words, what becomes the DA's first prize now that you can't get members of your organization to form part of this executive legislature, or executive council, I beg your pardon?
Yeah, I must make it very, very clear. The DA's wanting to participate is not just for the glamour of being in office. It's for meaningful engagement and meaningful contribution. And this is why, when there was this offers of this hollowed out portfolios, we said definitely not. And if the ANC wants to then engage the DA and have the DA back on the table, they will have to then, get away from the attitude of them thinking that they are wanting to co-opt other political parties. We certainly don't want to be co-opted. We want a power-sharing deal in Gauteng. And if that is not going to be the day, that is going to be the deal that will be, taken up, we will take our seats in the opposition and we will keep them to account. I want to use that relationship that we have to then say, are you willing to engage around the table meaningfully so, in terms of how do we re-engage in forming a government that talks to the aspirations of the people and actually respecting the views of the voters who have said to us, none of you should get more than 35%, therefore you cannot form government and actually control government on your own. But as things stand right now, 98% of the budget, 98% of the power is still sitting in the hands of the ANC in Gauteng. If you're looking at the announcements that had been made yesterday.
Yeah. Does the DA believe there can be meaningful power sharing without the party being represented in the executive?
Well, you can't. I mean, how do you pass budgets? How do you debate and discuss budgets? How do you debate and discuss and actually make sure that, the programs of government is actually then a reflective of, what the different constituencies and what the different, parties are bringing to the fore. So you're not going to be able to then deal with that or, be able to then execute that particular space or in that particular way, Ayanda. So there needs to be a reconsideration of what happens in the cabinet and how the cabinet is to be reconfigured if we want to then truly talk about the representation and actually the meaningful power sharing. So that's what needs to happen.
All right, and that's exactly what I was getting to. So it sounds to me your minimum demand still, even though the door's open, is for the DA to be represented in the cabinet here in Gauteng. But very well, we'll see how that all unfolds. Hopefully, both parties will be able to find each other at the very least for the benefit of the people in the province. Solim Msimanga, thanks for speaking to us. We appreciate your time here on the SABC. Solim Msimanga, of course, the leader of the Democratic Alliance in Gauteng. We're watching that space very closely as it continues to unfold. As I mentioned, no overstating the importance of this province, given, of course, the number of metros and their strategic economic positions in the country are.